Get coffee whenever you need it. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Church of Grace. My name is Patrick Hayes, and we are in our financial seminar, part two of 5. So welcome, and if you open up your notebooks, if you find the page that says Night 2, then you are in the right spot. So last week, we got through the first 3 steps of this plan. What was step 1? Anyone remember? It's written in your notes, so that's right. We're going to stop racking up new debt. Homework step 1 was cancel all of your credit cards and cut them up. And let me tell you, that was received about as well as you could imagine. Step number 2. Anybody? What was step number 2?
Fill out the
Yep, make an emergency fund. We want to save up $1,000 as fast as we can. We want to work overtime. We want to sell something if we need to. What's the reason we want an emergency fund in place? Well, it is, but there's a purpose beyond that. Beyond that, here's the deal. How are you going to stop racking up new debt? What happened when something pops up that you weren't expecting? Okay, if you don't have money to pay for that emergency, what are we going to do? We're going to go back into debt. Now remember, this philosophy is cult-like. And I'm going to ask you to shave your head and drink the Kool-Aid. Okay, the idea of getting out of debt and staying out of debt is a wildly radical idea in America today, and you are going to be looked at as if you need to be institutionalized by your stupid broke friends. But I am telling you, if you go down this road, it is a path to financial freedom. So, we want to get out of debt. We want to stop racking up new debt. Okay, step 1, stop racking up new debt. Step 2, get an emergency fund. Set aside $1,000 so when something pops up, we don't have to charge it anymore. We don't have to get out the plastic and go back into debt. Step number 3 was make a budget. And we gave you a budget outline. It's a simple one. You don't have to use the one that I wrote here in your notebook, but you certainly can. And homework step 2 from last week was to fill in your budget so that way you have an idea as to where you are. So my hope is that everyone had a serious conversation this past week. Every couple really needs to get on the same page about making a plan for their finances. If you are single, then you're in luck because you're in control of your finances and you don't have to convince another person. If you're married, then sometimes it's a little tougher. And let me tell you, if you and your spouse are on a different page, there's going to be some conversations. There's going to be a little fighting. Someone might be the grown-up. Someone might want to act like a little kid. And that does make it tough. Now, we're going to talk about our budget tonight. But let's start tonight with some good news. I have some statistics that are exciting. I think this is great news, and hopefully it'll be a little bit of an encouragement, because last week we started out by painting a pretty grim picture and telling you all the bad news. So here's the beginning. If you are 22 years old and you make $35,000 a year, now remember, if you make minimum wage, that ends up in the state of Colorado to be about $28,400 a year. So when we're talking about a $35,000 a year income, we're not talking about a wildly expensive lifestyle. If you are 22 years old and you start making $35,000 a year, and at age 22, you decide, I'm going to set aside 15% of my income, and I am going to invest it for my retirement. So 15% ends up being $437.50 per month. And I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to continue to do this until when I decide that I'm going to retire. And in this example, it's going to be when I'm 65 years old. How much will you have when you retire? $2 million is the guess. Anyone want to go higher or lower? 2.5. We're going up.
Is this through a bank? Are you putting it in a bank to compound?
No, if you put it under the mattress, you might as well light it on fire. If you give it to a bank, you might as well do the same. Okay, it's going to pay a little bit better, but not well enough. No, we're going to invest it in the market, and we're going to invest it in conservative things that are still going to yield 10, 11, 12% on average over any 10-year period. Those numbers, by the way, are not hard to get. They're not hard to find. And we're going to go over that, and we're going to talk about specifics. What you're going to find is that at the end of that point, when you end up at 65 years old, you are going to have $3.5 million. Now, $3.5 million, if we live off of 10% of that, we are going to have a lifestyle that is literally 10x over what we earned all of those years. And that also assumes that you never get a raise in 43 years. You start at 22 years old, you continue your entire life making $35,000 a year and putting 15% away. You never get a raise, you never get a promotion, that's it. Now that's nonsense. That also assumes you never get married and double your household income. We're going to talk about investing and how to get to retirement later. But for now, any questions on this?
I wonder if that takes into account like crashes in the market, like...
It does. Every single one. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, and this is a rabbit trail, so we're going to get there. Crashes in the market only hurt one group of people. What's that? Nope. Okay. Okay, Nick, that's a great point. Nick brought up a point. I was wrong. Crashes only hurt two groups of people. Number one, people who sell, pull their money out. Number two, people who are done and they are at a retirement age where they are no longer contributing. And we're going to get to the numbers in a minute, but as this product that you're investing in goes down and down and down and down and down and down over the course of 12 months, but you invest like clockwork every month or every pay period, well, what happens when it starts to go back up? You make massively more money than if the market were to just stay the same or slowly go up. Crashes are not bad for your investment. Crashes are where you make the money. That's where the cream is. It's only the people that sell or the people that are done retiring, they're on a fixed income, and that year their income doesn't bring anything in, okay, because it's all on the market. And keep in mind, once you get to the point where you say, okay, we're done, we're no longer looking for growth or aggressive growth, we're now at a point where we just want to live off this nest egg, you're not going to keep everything in a variety of mutual funds. You're going to move some stuff over to secure assets that are going to produce regular income steadily. And we're going to talk about all that, okay, and that's one example. All right, in order to drive this point home, let's go over a ridiculous scenario. You make the Colorado minimum wage of $13.65 an hour. You hear me? You are 18 years old. You still manage to set aside 15% for retirement at the age of 18. Now, that's hard to do. There's not a lot of room in that budget. You make minimum wage your entire life, and you retire at the age of 65. How much do you have in retirement? $4.5 million. It is possible for anybody. Anybody. The reason people don't retire with millions of dollars is not because of the market going up and down. It is not because of the fees that your broker charges you. Okay, it is not because, it's because people don't put any stinking money in their stinking retirement accounts. There is literally one factor that I need to drive home to people when we're talking about investing. Only one. Start. That's it. Class dismissed. That's why people don't get there. because they don't start. Anyone that does this and does this consistently over time retires in some level of comfort, and most people retire much better off than they lived their life prior to retirement. Christy.
Is that amount of 15%
15% of your pre-tax dollars. And we're going to go over why that is and what vehicles we want to use to invest. Okay, you guys are asking the questions about the exciting stuff. Okay, and we're not there yet. We're going to get there a little bit tonight. Next week is where all the magic happens. Okay, and we're going to go over a lot more about investing. It's going to be next week. Remember, what level of math are we going to use during this class? 5th grade math. We're not going to exceed that. Okay, there's no unicorn dust, there's no secret sauce, there's no magical recipe. Carlos? 15% of whatever your income is. Okay, no matter what your income is, that's what you want to do. Now, we're going to get there. I promise you. Come back next week. If it's not worth it, I'll refund your money. All right. That's a joke because it's a free class. Okay, the good news headline is that anyone can end up retiring as a millionaire. It just takes making some changes now. And when I say now, I mean as soon as humanly possible. The goal for tonight is step 4. You ready to fill in some blanks? Okay, step 4. Eliminate debt. That is step 4 in our plan. We want to eliminate all your debt other than your mortgage. Now, the goal is to pay off your mortgage, and the goal is to pay off your mortgage early. We do not want to wait 30 years to pay off our mortgage. Right now, we are not considering our mortgage debt when we talk about eliminating debt. It is debt, and we do want to eliminate it, but not during step 4. That's going to come a little later. Right now, we just want to get out from under any other debt that we are in. Typically, we call it consumer debt, credit cards, student loans, auto loans, things of this nature. Now, if you did your homework last week, then you came here with a budget that was filled in. And the first thing we want to look at is the number in the lower right-hand corner, the grand total. Is it a positive or a negative number? If it is a positive number, then you are going to have a much easier time during tonight's class. But before we continue, I want you to understand that in order to get out of debt, you need to answer yes to the following 3 questions. Number 1, is the number in the bottom right-hand corner of your budget a positive number? Meaning you have money left over at the end of the month. You don't spend it all. Question number 2, are you current on all of your bills? Number 3, do you have an emergency fund saved up? Just $1,000. If you are behind on any of your bills, we want to start with getting caught up on all of our bills. Once our bills are current and we're no longer in danger of being sent over to collections, then we're going to move on to eliminating our debt. So if you can answer yes to those 3 questions, we're ready to start eliminating our debt and really moving forward towards our financial future. Now, I'm going to tell you something else that some of you won't like. At this point, how much should you be contributing to your retirement? $0. If you have consumer debt, you should be contributing $0 to your retirement. You want to get out of debt first. And the reason is, that boat anchor is going to hold on to you. And when problems come up in your life, you can always pause contributing to retirement for a month and you have extra money. Does your credit card company, you call them up and you say, hey, things are kind of tough right now. Can I not send in a payment? Okay, I know loan sharks that are more compassionate than credit card companies. Okay, they don't care. So we want to get out of debt before we start retiring. As a general rule, we want to put $0 into our 401k. We want to put $0 into our Roth IRA, and we want to put $0 into the most famous retirement investment in America today, the scratch-off lottery ticket. I know some of you think that's a retirement. I'm not going to out you right now. Okay, it's not a retirement plan. Until all of our debts other than our mortgage are gone, we don't contribute anything to retirement. Questions? Got one in the back.
If you threw a debt along the way, such as getting a vehicle,
Uh-huh.
not able to pay it off when you buy it, should you stop contributing to your retirement accounts until you have it paid off?
Yes. Okay, you're not going to pause for very long. Now, okay, there are some caveats. So, and forgive me, everybody, I just want to remind you. I'm going to repeat the questions, and please help me to remember to repeat the question, simply because it was a very good question, and the people at home can't hear you on my mic, so I'm going to repeat it so the people watching at home can hear it. So the question was, if you accrued debt, so you got debt-free, and then you started your contributing to retirement, and then you got back into debt, what should you do? So the answer is pause the debt, get out of that debt, get back into retirement. Now, there are some exceptions, and one of them is, how bad is that car that you bought? Because for some people, the answer isn't pay off that car, the answer is sell that boat anchor, okay, and then find something affordable and then move into it. So I'll meet people that are like, oh, yeah, you know, got a new pickup truck, cost $95,000. You'll run into that. And it's like, okay, buddy, the answer is not pay that thing off. The answer is, you know, that's called a stupid tax. You know, you're going to sell that thing, get whatever you can out of it, buy something reasonable, and then get back to, you know, but we'll get to those numbers. Yes, ma'am? No, sorry. It's good. I'm sure it's a good question. Yes, it does. Correct. Now, we're going to get there. Can anyone guess how much time it takes the average American to retire all of their consumer debt? It takes 18 to 24 months for the average American. Now, here's the deal. And we're going to get there, and you guys are great at skipping ahead because you want the good stuff. If you want to take this thing seriously, and you want to retire this debt, you are going to sell so many things that the kids think they're going to be next. Okay? You are going to get a second job. You're going to get a third job. You are going to work your brains out. All of your stupid, broke friends are going to think that you need counseling because you're going to shave your head, you're going to drink the Kool-Aid, and you're going to get on this plan. You're going to knock this debt out in a couple years. And people do it. They do it, and they do it, and they do it. Or they drag it on forever. And that's a great segue into our next section. So let's move on here. Let's have a look at our budget. On our budget, the biggest problem are those shaded gray areas. Those are places we borrowed money. Car payment number 1, car payment number 2, a second mortgage. Now, I know your mortgage is a debt, but we aren't going to deal with that right now. And here we're talking about a second mortgage. And by the way, if you don't know what a second mortgage is, congratulations, you're one of the smartest people in the room. It means you don't have one. Credit cards, 1, 2, and 3. Now, I know someone in this room has more than 3. I mean, somebody does. I'm not going to ask you to out yourself, but I know you're out there. Student loans, personal loans, a HELOC, payday loans. You might also have medical bills you're paying on. You might have other types of debts or loans. That's fine. We're going to deal with all of them. What we are going to do is step 4, we are going to eliminate our debt. What we are going to use for this is the debt snowball. Now, in Grand Junction, Colorado, we don't get enough snow to make a snowman very often. Just doesn't happen. You got to live about, 500 feet in elevation higher? It's not a lot, but we just don't get the snow here. I grew up back east in New Jersey. And in New Jersey, we got way more snow than you guys got out in Colorado. We were at sea level, and you guys were a mile high here, and we got tons of snow. And it was big, heavy, wet snow, from storms coming off the ocean. So as a kid, if you want to make a snowman, there's only one way to do it. You make a snowball, and you throw that sucker down on the ground, and you just start pushing it around, and it all packs up the snow, and it gets bigger and bigger and heavier, and then you got your, your first big snowball for the bottom of the snowman. That's how you make a snowball for the snowman, okay? That's the same way we are going to eliminate our debt. What we're going to do is we are going to take all of our debts and we're going to list them from the smallest to the greatest. And we are going to pay the minimum payment on every single debt except for the smallest one, smallest balance, whatever it is. And we are going to take every single extra dollar we can find, beg, borrow, or steal, and we are going to throw it at that smallest debt, and we're going to do that every month until that guy is paid off. So, what I did was gave us an example, and I believe I wrote it in your notes. The example is someone that has a $3,000 credit card bill. They have a $4,500 credit card bill. They have an $18,000 auto loan, and they have $30,000 in student loan. That ends up totaling $56,000. And for the payments, they have a $759 a month payment for those 4 debts. If you make only the minimum payment every month, how long is it going to take you to get out of debt in this scenario? These are real numbers. It's going to take you 10 years and 10 months if you make the minimum payments. And we're going to write that down because we want to remember it later. 10 years, 10 months. So, what we are going to do is we are going to use the debt snowball. We're going to pay the minimum payment on the student loan, the auto loan, and credit card number 2, and we're going to throw every single extra dollar at credit card number 1. Now, in this scenario, our smallest debt is $3,000. It's a $60 a month monthly payment. Let's write that up there, $60 a month. And we're going to imagine that we make $50,000 a year, and we have an extra $250 a month to throw towards our debt. Now, $50,000 a year, I want to say, is the average income in America for someone who is 31 years old, if I remember. So we are going to pay the minimum payments towards our student loan, auto loan, and our larger of the 2 credit cards. We are going to take the $60 we normally pay towards our smallest credit card, and we are going to add to it the $250 we have extra laying around at the end of our budget. We have that much money left over that we don't spend. So we're going to throw $310 towards credit card number 1 every month. Everyone with me so far? Any questions? When we finish paying off our $3,000 credit card bill, which will be in 10 months, then we take the whole $310, right? So the $60 we were throwing at it, plus the $250 extra, which is what we have extra at the end of our budget. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw it towards credit card number 2 that has a $90 a month payment. We have a $298 auto loan payment, and we have a $311 student loan payment. And let me tell you, if you have a $300 auto payment, you should probably be on your knees thanking God, because the national average is double that. Oh yeah, over $600. That's the average. Yep. All right. So, let's see where we are.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah, Pam, jump in.
I'm hesitant to ask because I know my situation's atypical.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any credit cards.
Great.
But I do have, I have perpetual medical debt because I have whatever, health conditions.
Okay.
And and I don't thankfully pay interest.
Yep.
They generally don't expect me to pay $1,000 like upfront.
Sure.
So I'm usually able to negotiate a payment arrangement,
Mhm.
hospitals, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a fixed budget right now,
Mhm.
so there's only so much I can pay a month.
Mm-hmm.
But do you suggest that I pay max daddy a month? I mean, I like to get the monkey off my back.
Sure.
At all times.
Yeah.
But I also, if I have some wiggle room,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe say, for instance, if I could afford $20 a month, but if they agree to $10 a month, which isn't typical,
Yeah.
and I'm not paying paying interest on the outstanding balance to save that money. So that's generally what I do, and then just save that extra $10.
Well, what I'm going to, so the question has to do with medical debt, and we should probably talk about this one-on-one just because it's a little bit unusual. But a couple things, and this is a good idea for everyone. Medical debt is a little bit different than consumer debt in that there are laws set up as far as what they can do to you and how they can come after you. But what you want to do is you always want to be proactive with your creditors, and it's always a good idea to go in and sit down with someone and talk to them or write them a letter and explain, look, here's the situation, this is what I have, this is what's at the end of the month, this is what I can pay, and make it clear, I am not trying to dodge these debts, I am not trying to get out from under them, I am not planning on filing bankruptcy, I'm planning on paying you, this is how much I can pay, and I would like to meet with someone and go over some options to make sure that, you know, this doesn't go sideways on me.
I mean, years ago, someone said, Pam, why are you even bothering? I said, no, I want to be a responsible human being.
Sure.
And I actually have a good credit rating.
Yeah.
for that reason.
Here's another thing. With medical debt, even though you have one number at the bottom of the page, I guarantee that there are actually dozens and dozens of individual charges that you'll find that make up that medical debt.
I always ask for items.
So you can go in and you can find out, okay, how many different places do I owe money to and how much? And you can still do the same thing. You can say, okay, I'm going to take the smallest one. I'm going to pay everyone the minimum. And whatever the smallest group is, okay, the folks that took the x-ray, I owe, you know, I'm going to throw everything I can to retire that one.
Okay,
You got it. And then I'm going to move to the next one. I'm going to move to the next one.
okay, cool.
Okay, and with that, we'll
Okay.
talk more, you know, individually about that. Yeah. Okay, good question. So now, let's see where we are. So the debt snowball, this is how it works. We're done with credit card number 1, that's wiped out. We have the $250 plus the 60 makes $310. Now we're adding it to the 90, so we're going to throw $400 at credit card number 2 every month. So because of that, credit card number 2 will be paid off in 12 months. We are then going to take the $400 and add it to the minimum payment for the auto loan. And after that's paid off, we're going to do the same thing with the student loan. Now, how long until we are debt-free if we add $250 extra to our debts? 6 years, 4 months. So you just knocked off 4.5 years of being in debt. And guess what you can do now that that debt's gone? That frees up the money that can now go to investing. And that's going to cause your income to go. That's going to cause your financial future to grow more quickly when you have that money freed up. Also, when an emergency comes up, guess what? We have a whole lot more extra money freed up every month that's not tied up in debt. Now, 6 years to knock out consumer debt is way too long. Way too long. So let's say you get really serious about getting out of debt and you get a second job on the weekends and one night a week. You add $500 a month to your debt snowball. If you add $500 a month to your debt snowball instead of $250, how long will it take you to knock out the debt?
3 years.
You'll knock off 1.5 years of debt payments. So you'll be out of debt completely in 4 years and 4 months instead of 6 years. Now, if you also tighten up your budget and instead of eating out for lunch every day, you brown bag a lunch, you can add more to your debt retirement. Stop ordering coffee and make it at home. Stop eating pork chops for dinner and eat rice and beans. You do all of that, and you'll retire that $56,000 debt in 2 years, maybe less. Don't tell me you can't do it. I know so many people that have done it, and they've done way more than that. How serious are we going to get about retiring this debt? Remember, under the pay the minimum amount plan, which is the default plan of the poor, you are going to be dragging that debt around for 10 years. We can easily get it down to half of the time, and with some hard work and discipline, you pay $1,000 a month extra, and how long until that debt's paid off? 2.5 years. eat rice and beans, get a second job, sell a bunch of junk you don't need, take this thing seriously. Barb, what you got for a question?
Did this formula take into account that while you're paying off one,
Mm-hmm.
the others are still accruing interest, so they're getting larger than what you started with?
Well, the amounts that you owe are not getting larger because the interest that's accrued is going to be less than the minimum payment you're paying. Don't get me wrong, you absolutely, are wasting money on interest. But Barb, that's a great question. So on your notebook, you will see there is a website, RamseySolutions.com/debt/debt calculator, or you can just scan that QR code with your phone and it will bring you to an online tool where you can enter all your debts, the interest rate, the minimum payment, the amount you're going to pay extra, and it will tell you down to the day that you're going to be out of debt. Yep. And then you can go down to the little slidey rule at the bottom and it says how much extra are you going to throw at your debt? And you can slide that thing up to $10 or $50 or $1,000 and you'll see how fast it's going to get knocked out. You can get on a plan, you can make it happen, you can set some goals. People do it all the time. So my question for you is, how serious are you? Any of us can make serious sacrifices for a short period of time. If we do the math, which this debt calculator makes easy to do, we can say, okay, it's a tunnel, but there's light at the end of it, and that tunnel is 2.5 years long. And I will be totally debt-free, and my life will be different forever. Most people just assume that a $600-700 a month car payment is the way life is, and I'm just going to do that for the rest of my life. That is ridiculous. Do not be average. Average people are broke and stupid. You don't have to be one. I was one for years. I am so grateful that when I was 20 years old, someone handed me a book and said, hey, there's a better way. Learn this stuff now. And believe me, if you're 40, it's better to learn it now than 10 years later. Same goes for 50, same goes for 60. You want to learn this stuff and you want to make a change now. All right, at this point in our plan, we are debt-free. Took a little bit of time, but we're there. And let me tell you, it feels good. Mike Lindell and his super pillow has nothing on being debt-free for how good you sleep. And I love those super pillows. My wife's got one, my kids got one. Those things are awesome. Now, before we start investing our money and paying off our home early, we want to save up some more money so we never have to go into debt again. This brings us to step 5. We are going to save up 3 to 6 months of our budget. Whatever our monthly budget is, we are going to save up 3 to 6 months of that budget. We are going to take our emergency fund that has $1,000 in it, and we are going to grow that up to 3 to 6 months worth of a budget. Our financial future depends upon us continuing to live by our most important step 1. Stop racking up new debt. You want to get out of a hole? Put down the shovel. Stop digging. We have to start looking at the world differently. We have to start looking at debt for what it is. It is a curse. We are a slave. We hate it. It is the enemy. We are the weirdos. We don't fit into any room we walk into because we hate debt with a vengeance. We are never going into it again. 75% of the people on Forbes' list of the 400 wealthiest people in America say getting out of debt and staying debt-free is the most important thing you can do when it comes to handling your money. So you don't have to listen to old Patrick up here that sounds like he just fell off of a cart full of pumpkins. Listen to 75% of the 400 wealthiest people in America. Get out of debt. That's where freedom is. So if we save up 3 to 6 months of our budget, then we will be able to survive life's biggest financial reversals, like our car, the engine blowing up, like losing our job for a month or two. We don't have to sweat it. The money's there. We can make it through. Growing our emergency fund ensures we have a cushion in case of illness or job loss. And once we start saving up for our retirement, we don't ever want to borrow from that or dip into our retirement funds to pay for anything again. That's why we have that emergency fund. 54% of Americans worry daily about their financial situation, and 34% of them have no savings at all. Any questions before we get to step? Well, we're not done with step 5. Any questions? Okay.
Where would you put business debt?
So that's a great question. I would like to answer it at a different time, just not to hang us up. So the question was, where are you going to put business debt? And I would like to answer that at a different time. There are a lot of questions I would want to ask first, but for me, I want to run my business as much as I can run like my personal account. Now, my personal accounts. I'm going to tell everyone this, and this is off the top of my head. So this is what I've read. I don't have a source right now, but you can go ahead and check me. Prior to the 1950s, companies in the United States of America typically had a cash reserve in their business for 1 year of expenses. That included payroll, that included materials, that included everything. They had massive cash reserves. And guess who weren't making a lot of money back then? Banks. Today, most companies are lucky to have 1% of their annual budget saved up in something liquid. It has completely gone to the other end, where we use debt as a financial instrument. And here's the problem, is that we still don't know what tomorrow brings. And everybody's issue is that we have this idea, it's called uniformitarianism. The way things have been happening for the last year is the way things are going to happen next year. But that's not what happened 2 years ago, when the government just came in and said, your business is closed, your business is closed, yours is open. Yours is closed, yours is closed, yours is closed. No, it's open. No, it's closed. Yours is open, his is closed. Yours, that's exactly like his, is open, but his is closed. We don't know what's coming. Along with that, I am currently helping 2 different people who have businesses, small businesses, and their finances just got a grenade thrown into it. Do you want to know the name of that grenade? Divorce. Some people are in a partnership, which, by the way, is the dumbest thing you could ever do, but we'll talk about that later. You can have substance abuse show up. You can have bankruptcies and divorce show up. You can have all kinds of things show up, and all of a sudden, the plan, it gets a grenade thrown in it. So that's the reason that the safest way to do it is with cash. And what I recommend to everybody in business is, if nothing else, take 1 step in that direction, however you can do it. With that being said, let's keep moving on. Good question.
May I ask you a question with the
Yeah.
emergency fund?
Sure.
Did you say keep it in cash, or do you want it in some kind of interest-bearing liquid account?
Good question. With the emergency fund, should it be in cash or should it be in some kind of interest-bearing account? So I keep mine in just a high-yield savings account. And by that, I mean it's attached to my bank account. Okay, so I literally just get on my phone and hit transfer, and it's there. So I can use my debit card on a day's notice, on a minute's notice, but I have it in an account. It is not an account that can ever lose the principal balance. It just earns, 4 or 5%, and that's it. It just sits there. And with any luck, it'll sit there forever, and I'll never use it. So honestly, so far, Joanna and I are beyond step 5. We have 3 to 6 months saved up in our emergency fund. We have never used it yet. Watch what's going to happen now when I drive home. Okay. But here's my point. And this is something you're going to notice. When you start going through these steps and getting on this plan, your thinking's going to change and your lifestyle is going to change in dozens of ways. You're going to start making every purchase differently. All right, so start by taking a look at your bank account to see what you usually spend each month. Multiply that number by 3 or 6 to get an idea how much you should save up for your emergency fund. We are still going to go over our budget line by line here in a minute, but with any luck, our monthly budget is 70% of our total take-home income or less. Okay, our budget should be 70% or less of our income. And remember, even at this point, okay, we are not investing for retirement just yet, not until this is all saved up. Now, why 3 months instead of 6 months? Here are the questions. Are you single? Do you have no kids? Do you have a stable job? Probably only need 3 months saved up. Are you married with a single income? Are you a single parent? Are you self-employed? Or do you work on commission? Then you should probably have 6 months saved up. If you are a low-income earner and you are irresponsible with your money, then you need to save up more like 6 months. Any questions? Okay. Now what we're going to do is go over our budget line by line. We're going to use it as our template for our discussion on how to save money. And before we get into that, I am going to explain to you one of the principles in an awesome book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It is not on the book table, but I suggest getting it. In The Richest Man in Babylon, we read about the 7 cures for a lean purse. You say, boy, there's just not much money in this purse. One of the 7 cures for a lean purse. Cure number 2, control thy expenditures. Our necessary expenditures will always grow to our increased income. What is the number 1 rule the poor live by? Talked about it last week. Spend it all. That is the rule of the poor. How much money annually does the poor make? Anywhere between $20,000 and $500,000. I personally know one surgeon who brings home over $800,000 every year and is poor. What does he do with it? Spends it all. Do not confuse necessary expenses with desires. The problem is your income grows and all of a sudden, the very next day, your necessary expenditures catch up with it. And you just keep playing that game and keep playing that game, and guess what you are? You're broke because you act like a poor person. Remember, poor is not an amount of money. Poor is a mindset. Broke is an amount of money. You might be broke, but there's a fix for that. Okay. When people want to improve their financial state, the good news is they are all willing to make one big change. Now, I've said lots of controversial things last week and maybe tonight. Lots of things people don't like to hear. But there is one thing that every single one of you can get on board with. Everyone is willing to increase the amount of money they make in order to fix their problems. Y'all okay with that? Anyone object to making more money? Wealth is not increased by making more money until you learn how to handle money. Now, I'm going to say something that you're going to laugh at first. Believe it or not, most people, money is their problem. And making more money causes them more problems. Let me explain a concept about money that I would imagine no one has ever considered, heard about, or discussed, because it's just un-American. More money can sabotage your financial plan because you don't know how to handle money. You probably don't have a plan for your money. You probably don't live by financial principles. So when you get extra money, you go and do something stupid with that money that makes your financial situation worse. In financial planning, do you know how to spell the word stupid? It's a 4-letter word. Boat. What is a boat? A boat is a hole in the water you fill with money. Your average used fishing boat costs about $15,000. Then it costs you $2,000 a year in maintenance. Insurance is $500 a year. You got to register the thing. You also got to register the trailer that you pull the boat with. And then let's not forget that you have to take time off of your life to use the thing. Sometimes it's time off of work, and at the very least, it is many small expensive trips to the lake with food and fuel and all the little expenses that go with a weekend of having fun. The point is, this boat analogy, it is a way to torpedo your finances with one purchase that is a liability. A boat, a four-wheeler, a side-by-side doesn't just cost the purchase price. It will cost you money for the rest of your life. So what happens is someone gets a raise, someone gets a bonus, and it's like, ooh, more money. What do people do with found money? They spend it. And what do they spend it on? They spend it on something stupid, like a boat, which is a liability, which is going to cost you more money and more money and more money. And all of a sudden, where are you? You're deeper in debt. You're in a worse financial situation than before you got that bonus. More money can be your problem. You want to know another one that people are wildly... what is the biggest liability that you have in your life? Nope. It's your house. Everyone in America teaches that your house is a what? It's an asset. Your house is not an asset. Now, I'm not saying not to buy a house. I think you should buy a house. The reason you should buy a house is because 10 years from now, your house is going to be worth a lot more than it was today. But guess what? Your price that you pay for the house is fixed, or it should be if you got the right loan. If you're renting, that rent's going to go up year after year after year. Buying a house is a good idea, but do not tell me that it's an asset. It's a liability. You get a house, that house that you just bought, every single person that buys a house, it's bigger than the apartment they were just in, which means you got more rooms, which means you need to fill it with a bunch more junk, right? So now we're buying furniture and we're buying all the different decorations. And then after that, so what you end up doing is spending a whole lot more money when you buy a house. For most people, it is not a financial asset. Now, you might make a lot of money when you sell it, and that's great. But what I'm saying is month to month, you're going to spend a lot more money on that thing. Okay, boat analogy over. So the purchase of a boat is the first great way you can destroy your budget. This is my number one major money, no way, Jose. Buying a boat. Buying a boat, buying a four-wheeler, buying a side-by-side, buying an airplane. Don't do it. Now, I said that to say this. The way you fix your finances is not by making more money, is by managing the money you have properly and cutting your spending. Any questions? We do that with a budget. Sure. The way you fix your finances is not by making more money. It is by managing the money you have properly and cutting your spending. Now, once you learn how to manage your money properly, are those bonuses good? Yeah, they're great. I just got a bonus last week.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a bonus. You want to know what I did with it? Nope, didn't spend $1 of it. Okay, went to debt. That bonus goes straight to paying off my mortgage early. Don't even want to touch it. All right, so let's go over our budget line by line. Where can we cut our spending and save money? Going through our budget and finding ways to save money is helpful to any of us, but for those of us whose grand total number in the bottom right-hand corner of our budget is a negative number, it is critically important. We must free up money so we can pay off our debts and build up a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. For those of you who have no money left over in your budget at the end of the month, you will literally never retire. It's impossible. We have to have a positive number at the end of our budget so that we can pay off our debt, so that we can save up 3 to 6 months, and so that we can invest for our retirement. If you spend it all every month, it doesn't matter how much money you make. Whether you make $50,000 a year, whether you make $500,000 a year, you're still going to be broke. Now, I should also say that many of the things I'm going to tell you right now are going to be very distasteful. You are not going to want to do many of the things I say for the remainder of the night. But just remember that I don't care what changes you make in your life. It will not affect me or my retirement by $1. We said this last week, we'll say it again. Remember, winning with money is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. If you can get the person in the mirror to change their behavior, you will win with money. There will be no stopping you. Okay, let's start with the car payment on our budget. The average automobile loan payment is $628.50. A new car is $730. A used car is $528. That's the average payment people carry around with them every month. Car payments will destroy your budget. Now, we talked a lot about this yesterday, so I'm not going to cover everything again. And today we talked about getting out of debt with the debt snowball, which would include paying off your vehicles. One thing we didn't talk about was the fact that many of you need to sell your car. And people hate that. You don't need to pay off that boat anchor, you just need to cut it loose. The general rule of thumb is that all of your vehicles, altogether, everything with an engine and wheels, does not total up more than half of your annual income. That's the rule, general rule. If you want to turn $100,000 into $50,000, invest in automobiles. What I'm saying is automobiles are a terrible investment. They are not an asset. They are a liability. Brand new vehicles lose 20% of their value the second you drive them off the lot. You want to know what else they do the second you drive them off the lot? They turn into used vehicles. Don't tell me I got a new vehicle. You don't. It's new when it's on the lot. When you buy it, it's used. Go ahead and try to sell it to someone the next day. Hey, I got a new vehicle. No, you don't. That thing's used. I ain't paying full price for that. Unless your net worth is greater than $1 million, you have absolutely no right buying a brand new vehicle. You just cannot afford it. You're kidding yourself. We need to be okay with driving a junker. My son Moses, 16 years old, bought his first car last year. He paid $1,800 for it. A 1995 Volvo station wagon. Now, I know that nobody here wants to drive a 30-year-old vehicle. And the fact is, you won't have to, not forever. But if you are struggling to make your budget work, sell that expensive car and buy a junker for under $2,000. If it works for 2 years and the engine blows up, throw it away and buy another one. You are still wildly ahead of the average car payment. An $1,800 car payment, it's going to average out to like $85 a month. That's wildly lower than the average car payment when you borrow money, $500, $600, $700 plus a month. Any questions? Most people, they mix up can'ts and won'ts. There are so many times people won't do something that they can do to fix their problem because it's inconvenient. Friend of mine worked down in Houston, Texas, public school teacher, him and his wife trying to get out of debt. He drove, I want to say, 50 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, in a car that was 30 years old that did not have air conditioning in Houston, Texas. He put his suit, his shirt and tie and hung it up in the back seat and drove down in a t-shirt because he was going to sweat himself to death, and then got to school, rinsed off, and then put on his clean clothes because he wasn't willing to spend a giant pile of money on a brand new shiny piece of garbage that he couldn't afford. Can't do it and won't do it. Very different. What are you willing to do? Okay, one thing we didn't go over yet is how a Christian should buy a car. There's a best way, there's a better way, and there's a no way Jose way. And we're going to talk about those. We're not going to do it at this time, but we will get there. And I understand what I'm telling you is no fun and that a lot of people won't want to do it. I'm just telling you the way to become filthy stinking rich. Okay, there are 24.5 millionaires in America. Sorry, there are 24.5 million millionaires in America. 10,000 of them were questioned in what was called the National Study of Millionaires. There is also this book called The Millionaire Next Door, which is on our book table, and it is a must-read for anyone that is struggling with this idea. The most common vehicle of millionaires in America is a Ford F-150 pickup truck. And the average millionaire drives a car that was 4 years old when they bought it with 40,000 miles on it. Almost every single one of them pay for their vehicles in cash. If you must borrow money to buy a house or anything, there are rules laid out in the Bible that we must follow to do that. We are going to get to that at another time. For now, make the decision to get rid of that expensive car with a massive payment, buy a junker, and free up some room in your budget. After all, who are we trying to impress? Okay, moving down in the budget. Fuel is the next one down. Walk, ride a bike, carpool. Let your kids ride the bus to school and plan out your trips to the store. Go to the store on your way home from work and save on fuel. If you are one of those folks that runs to the store every time you want something, you are burning through money spent on fuel and groceries going everywhere. Plan your life out just a little bit. Moving down, wash your own car. Don't pay for parking. Park further away from work and walk a few extra blocks. We could all use the exercise. All right, moving down into the budget, into insurance. We're going to talk about all these, and I'm expecting a lot of questions. So we're going to talk about saving money, but we're also going to explain what these are and what we do. So my job as Joanna's husband and the father of 6 kids is to take care of them. We all agree? Yep. Okay. It is not to take care of them for as long as I live. It is to take care of them as long as they live. We do that with life insurance. So what type of insurance should we get? And where do we get it? First rule of insurance is shop around. This is incredibly easy to do online. Insurance agents sell you insurance. They get to keep a percentage of what they're selling you. So we want to shop around and find an agent that's willing to take a little less and give us the same coverage. Types of insurance. There are several types of life insurance. There is only one you should get. The one that you should get is called term. Term life insurance. That's what you should buy. It's what everyone should buy. Term is what I have right now, and it's what you should get. You pay a premium every month for a certain term, a certain number of years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. If you die any time during that term, the insurance company will pay you whatever amount of coverage you bought, which should be 10 to 12 times your annual salary. 10 to 12 times your annual salary and life insurance benefits. The reason for this is you die, your wife gets a lump sum payout, she can invest that, and she can live off the interest, and her lifestyle does not have to change any. Her and the kids will be fine and can live a relatively reasonably equal life to what they had before. So you want to get 10 to 20 times your annual salary. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is that 10 to 12 times your current annual salary, or what you would like to have as your current salary? What you would suppose?
Okay, the question was 10 to 12 times your current salary or what you would like. So here's the thing. Life insurance companies are only going to sell you a certain amount of life insurance. So if you go in there with your husband and you sit down with an insurance agent, and keep in mind, this shows you how old I am. You're going to do it online. You're not going to sit down at a desk with anyone. But you go in and you sit down and they say, okay, how much coverage would you like on your husband? And you say $20 million. The insurance agent is going to fall out of his chair and your husband's going to choke and look at you wondering if you poisoned his breakfast. They're not going to insure you beyond a certain amount, and that amount is going to be relative to what you make. So there are going to be parameters that any company is going to allow. There is a way around this, and I'm willing to tell you how to cheat the system because it's not illegal, because we did this with Joanna. So, well, and here's what happened. What happened is, I'm not going to tell you why, okay, but I'll tell you how this works. When we first got married, we got insurance on Joanna and myself, and I want to say that we got a $600,000 term life insurance policy. And then we started having more kids, and all of a sudden the idea was we need to increase this amount. The problem was I was self-employed, and anyone that's self-employed knows that the goal of being self-employed is to write off as much money on your taxes as possible so you spend less on taxes and you're allowed to keep as much money. And this is done legally, okay, but it's a real problem when you have to show someone that you make a lot of money, because they look at your taxes and they say you don't make a lot of money. And it's like, well, I make more than that, I just write it off. And everybody knows this, but life insurance companies are kind of a problem. So when we wanted to increase Joanna's coverage, they said, we're not willing to write you a policy bigger than $600,000. I said, okay, we would like to shop around for prices. And we found another company that was willing to write us a $600,000 life insurance policy for half as much as the first one. And they said, well, we don't like that you have this other policy. And I said, that's fine, but I'm not canceling it until your policy is in effect. Because what happens if we cancel it and your policy goes into effect 30 days from now and she dies between those two periods? Me and the kids are up a creek without a paddle. And they said, okay, we understand that. So they wrote us the policy. We never canceled our old one. So we have two policies, which you didn't break any laws. You didn't do anything illegal, okay? But they gave us a problem. I just rewrote my life insurance policy, I don't know, months ago, and I got insured for $1.2 million for under $80. $80 a month. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, I'm 44 years old. Okay, I'm in good health. My blood pressure is low. If I was 10 years older and 100 pounds heavier, well, they're not going to be as excited, and the rate's going to be really bad. Okay, so there are factors. Yes, ma'am.
Should everyone get
Yes. Okay, good question. So should everyone get life insurance young? Yes, absolutely. Do you know the main reason why? It is not because of the price. Mac?
Because you're younger and you're healthier?
Nope, that gives you a better price because you're younger and you're healthier. Because at some point you can become uninsurable. All of a sudden, all you have to do is you have a tumor develop somewhere. Guess what? We ain't insuring you. You're high risk. Or if we're going to insure you for life insurance, we're going to charge you $500 a month. Okay, so you want to get insurance when you're young because you can become uninsurable at some point. So that's the idea. You're 20 years old. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you're not going to remain 20 and single with no kids forever, right? Get a 30-year policy for $500,000, you're going to pay nothing for it. And then you keep that, and when you get married, great, now your wife is covered. Oh, by the way, you developed whatever. You have some kind of disease or some condition. Well, you already got the insurance. They can't take it away from you. It's a good question.
But if it's a term policy,
Yeah.
I'm not young, but I mean, if it's a term policy, then you would be real bad. Say you got sick,
Yep.
and then your term expires, you have,
After your term expires, that's it. You have to start over with a new policy.
okay.
Yep.
And then what if you, like, I don't have dependents, but I
Uh-huh.
want to cover, of course, my own funeral expenses, and then also leave some money for siblings.
Sure.
But I should take into account, like, well, I don't have credit cards, but
Mm-hmm.
my debt, or should I?
No. So, okay, so good question. Your medical debt does not follow you and does not get passed on to anybody. The hospitals and the doctors lose. You do not have to worry about paying that off with any kind of insurance. Nope, it's gone. They write it off as a loss, and that's the end of it.
So if I left money, say, for siblings, and I had outstanding medical debt, they couldn't, and I'm unmarried, they can't go after,
They sure can, and they might not get it. Yep.
they can.
Oh, yeah.
How would they get wind that I even have an insurance policy?
What's that?
How would they even know I have an insurance policy? I guess, whatever.
I don't know, but believe me, okay, they can sure try.
I mean, I know the government will.
Yeah. Good question. Barb?
Yeah. Do you want to take the time, you don't have to.
Yeah, it's okay.
To define whole life insurance?
Sure. Stupidest product ever created in the world. Whole life insurance.
On TV, they advertise that.
Yes.
You sell whole life.
Yes. Okay, so we're not going to go over it, but here's the deal. You never, ever, 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 this is a boat on steroids, okay? It's a boat with a helicopter pad on the back of it. You never want to buy an insurance product that has an investment component built into it. Everyone will try to sell you one because they make money. You will not. 10 years later, you will realize the cash value is worthless, the rate at which it grows is worthless, and you just spent all this money putting money into a whole life policy that did nothing for you. It barely covers anything. It's bad for insurance. It's bad for investing. But I guarantee you, the very first person you meet who gets into finance and gets their license and can sell insurance, they're going to come knocking on your door. Your college roommate, your buddy from work, and they are going to try to sell you a whole life policy. Punch them square in the nose and don't ever talk to them again. Worst product ever. Was that a good enough answer?
Pretty strong answer.
Oh, yeah. I cannot stress it enough. Okay, the person that sold you the product will make money and it will do nothing that they promised.
It goes beyond term, doesn't it? Term, whole life, as long as you want to pay into it, no? Just a period of use?
Without wasting any more time, trust me, and I'll give you the breakdown of the whole thing later. Fair enough? Okay. So this is the cheapest way to cover your loved ones. If you hate your wife and kids, don't get term life. That's it. Okay? You hate your wife and kids, don't get term life. You want to know the second thing you don't get if you hate your family? A will. Okay, we're going to get to that later. All right, let's see. How long of a term should I buy insurance for? That depends on your age, marital status, the age and number of the kids you have. I signed up for a 30-year policy when I was 26 because I was young and in good shape, and they sold it to me pretty cheap. And for me, I re-upped when I was 31 years old, and I bought another 30-year term policy. Because when does your Roth IRA cash out? 59 and a half years old. So that means that I wanted to contribute to my retirement until I was 59 and a half years old. My retirement account was mature, and my wife could take out that money. I was covered up until that point. If I die up until this point, Joanna and the kids are covered. After that, I am fine. So the idea is, so long as, number one, I pay my life insurance premium every month, and number two, I continue to put money into my retirement accounts. When I turn 60 years old, my wife doesn't need life insurance on me because we have enough money in the retirement account where she doesn't have to work anyhow. That's the idea.
I have a Roth IRA. So with
Awesome.
Roth IRA, you can, when you turn 60, you can withdraw penalty-free? Is that?
When you turn 59 and a half, you can withdraw it penalty-free. And more than penalty-free, tax-free. Yeah. Okay. So, you ready for this, guys? We need insurance on our wives as well. If a woman loses a man, she needs a man. If a man loses his wife, he needs like 10 or 15 women immediately. I'm serious. Okay? You got kids to watch, and you know, if your wife takes care of the house, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, you need help. So you need to have life insurance to cover her so that you can stay home with the kids and do everything that she did, just worse. So let's see. Okay, there is a QR code in your notes in the upper right-hand corner here. You can scan that. It will bring you to Zander Insurance where you can get a quote on life insurance. Your homework assignment for tonight is to get a life insurance quote on you and your spouse. Don't wait. Hey, now look up here, okay? I'm serious. I am a pastor, and I have helped way too many widows who had no life insurance on their husband who just died. And it's my job to tell them that their husband was an idiot. Don't put me in that situation. Because you're dead and you don't have to deal with it. It's reckless. Get life insurance. I'm tired of dealing with it. I got one widow that just showed up last month. No life insurance. Still has kids living at home. Nobody knows what's going to happen now. It's stupid. It's reckless. Christy, you had a question. You don't want to ask. You're scared.
Scared her?
Yeah. Yes.
If you're concerned that you may have trouble finding, like, coverage,
Mm-hmm.
being able to get insured, should you just go out there and find somebody that's gonna insure you, buy it, and then keep shopping if it's not a great rate? And
Shopping for insurance is very easy. You're going to go, if you scan this QR code, they are literally insurance brokers. They are going to shop every single company in America all at once. In the computer age, it is very easy.
well, you said that you purchased it, and then you later went and purchased something different, and they thought that you had intentions of canceling it.
Yes.
So how often are you able to find something that is less expensive than you initially purchased?
So that's a great question. I mean, for me, what I found was recently I was able to double the amount of my insurance and pay less than I was paying before.
So that's a great example.
It was awesome. Now, here's the thing. I didn't even save $100. I saved like $40. You know, it is, and it's great, and I'm glad I did it. But for me, like, you know, when I bought insurance, which was 20 years ago, you know, the internet wasn't even half of what it is today. You know, so you're going to have a great insurance has gone down because of the competitiveness of the internet. It is the time to do it. So you will be able to find a reasonable deal. And here's something else, real quick. I should say this. You can only afford what you can afford. Okay, you have some serious medical issues. what can you can't go broke month to month and destroy your budget to try to hit that 10 to 12 times number if it's not possible. Okay, we had a friend who had what did Jesse have? He had a liver transplant or it was some organ. And this was a normal, healthy guy. And it was just he was born with a bum, organ. And guess what? I mean, it was horrible. He wasn't able to get, insurance, or it wasn't that he was uninsurable, but it was outrageously expensive. So it's like, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to pay what we can to try to get at least enough where it's going to cover the house. So my wife is going to have to get a job. The parents are going to have to kick in. The church is going to have to help out. But her and the kids have the house. You can't pay $2,000 a month to get the life insurance you need. I mean, we can only afford what we can afford. Okay, but your wife cannot afford to you not having life insurance. Good question.
Does Xander Insurance also deal with long-term care and disability?
They do.
Types of insurance?
Yep. And that's a great segue. Okay. Is this unbelievable or what? We have not taken a break last week, and we did not take a break this week, and we still got a little bit to cover. Okay, no more questions for at least 5 minutes. Let me get through this. Okay, home insurance. You ready for this? Shop around. Now, your home insurance is wrapped up in your mortgage, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to pick your insurance company. So you can shop around for home insurance. A lot of companies will give you a discount if you get multiple types of insurance through them. So it's worth shopping around. Auto insurance. Again, you get to pick what company you use for auto insurance. So let's shop around. I'm just going to skip the idea of explaining to you how auto insurance works and the difference between full coverage and liability. All right, I am going to give you this. Now, this is an idea. Another way to save a lot of money on your auto insurance or on your home insurance is the deductible. Does anyone know what the deductible is? Okay. The deductible is the amount of money you have to pay first before they give you any money. So typically with home insurance, you are going to have a $500 or $1,000 deductible. So that means you are responsible for the first $500 of the repair, and then the home insurance kicks in after that, or you are responsible for the first $1,000, and then they kick in money after that. The higher the deductible, the lower your monthly payment. So the idea is if you're willing to change your deductible from $500 to $1,000, well, all you need to do is save up $500, and guess what? Now it's the same as when you had a $500 deductible, but the price you pay a month is lower. So if you want, see if they'll give you a $2,000 deductible for homeowners insurance. And then what you do is you save up $1,500. So you had your normal $500 deductible, the first $500 of the damage that you have to pay. Okay, you increase that to a $2,000 deductible, which is a difference of $1,500. So you don't live with a $2,000 deductible. You take the money you save on the monthly payment that went down, you save up $1,500 of it, put it in an envelope, throw it in the safe, and then if you ever need your homeowner's insurance, well, guess what? You're still only paying the $500 deductible at the time of the incident, and you have the extra $1,500 in the safe. You see what I'm saying? So you can lower your insurance monthly by getting a higher deductible.
Would you consider, real quick, saving for the higher deductible, setting it aside? Would you consider that a part of your emergency fund?
No, I would consider that a thrifty little idea that's going to be separate from my emergency fund. Yeah. Now, how about this? If you are at the point where you're at step 5 and you have 3 to 6 months saved up, yeah, that's part of your emergency fund. Absolutely. Don't even worry about it. Get a high deductible, save on the monthly amount you're going to pay on insurance. Sure, why not? What's $1,500 if you have $30,000 saved up? Right? It's not a big deal. You're going to save money month after month on a lower interest payment because a lower insurance payment because you have a higher deductible. Okay. Now remember, the whole reason we're going over all of this is so that you can save money every month so you can apply that money towards your debt or your retirement, not to upgrade the size of your flat screen TV. Okay? This is why we're doing this. Long-term disability insurance. You know anyone who has been unable to work for months or even years? Disability insurance covers some of your income if something happens to you and you can't work, like an illness or an injury. The Social Security Administration reports that 1 out of 4 of today's 20-year-olds will become disabled for 90 days or more before they turn 67 years old. 25% of you are going to have at least one incident where you are disabled for 90 days or more. Long-term disability will cover 40 to 60% of your income in an event of illness or injury. 40 to 60. You can find them that'll cover as much as 60 to 70%. And that will last typically 5 years, maybe longer. It will cost roughly 1 to 3% of your salary. It is worth it. Okay, my long-term disability coverage is going to be, because I pay it annually, just a little bit over $200 a month, but it'll cover me for $4,000 a month for up to 5 years. So if something bad happens, and on top of that, I have an additional plan where if it's a major catastrophe, where I like lose a limb or I go blind, it'll kick in an extra $10,000 a month, and I get that till I'm 67 years old.
So if I chop off your arm, you get 10,000 a month.
Yes, plus $4,000 a month for the first 5 years after 90 days. All of these long-term disability. Now, okay, you ready for this? I'm paying $200 a month. What do I do for a living? It ain't pastor at church. I'm in construction. I work on roofs with ladders. Guess what? Mine is literally the highest tier. Long-term disability for most jobs, if you work a desk job, it is cheap. Okay? It is not expensive. You should get it. It will bankrupt your family if you don't have it. Okay. Really quick, short-term disability coverage. Do not buy it. Long-term disability kicks in after 90 days. So you need to be able to float your first 3 months before the disability coverage kicks in. How do we do that, Patrick? I don't know. Maybe step 5, save up 3 to 6 months of your budget. So you pay for your first 3 months, 90 days kicks in, they start writing you checks. Long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance covers a lot of in-home care costs, including medical care and equipment, task assistance, and some home modifications. It also covers services outside of your home like nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and adult daycare. If you don't have long-term care insurance, then what you need is pillow coverage. Those are the only 2 acceptable types of insurance. Pillow coverage. That's when your best friend comes to visit you and they hold a pillow over your face until you stop breathing so that your wife gets the life insurance and she doesn't have to file bankruptcy. If you don't have long-term care insurance, you better get a friend who's willing to give you pillow coverage. Because if you need long-term care, your wife will be broke in 30 days, 60 days. When you need full-term care, that 3 to 6 months is gone overnight. You think I'm joking? Yeah, you'd be surprised how many guys have an agreement with each other. Okay, I just want to say I would be willing to kill at least half of you. Everyone's joking. I want to make sure that we're on record. Everyone was laughing. Everyone got the joke. For whatever district attorney digs up this video one day, everybody was laughing. Yeah. Okay. An umbrella policy. Anyone with a net worth of greater than $500,000 needs an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy simply is greater insurance that covers you beyond what your auto insurance, your homeowner's insurance is willing to cover. So the idea is you get in an automobile accident and there's a limit of $25,000 in personal medical bills. So I get into an accident, Rick gets hurt, he goes to the hospital. Rick is in a coma for a week, and it was my fault for the auto accident. His medical bills are going to be way more than $25,000. The difference that my auto insurance coverage goes up to and what his bills were, I'm responsible for. That is covered by an umbrella policy. No pillows involved in this one. Okay? No, I just want to visit the guy. Okay? So you need an umbrella policy. They are typically reasonably cheap. Now, here's the thing. You say, Patrick, I'm dead broke. Well, you don't need an umbrella policy. If you want to sue someone, the lawyer you hire, first thing he's going to ask you, the guy you want to sue, does he have any money? No? Well, then go slip and fall at Walmart. They have money. Okay? You don't sue people that are broke. Okay? But as soon as you start paying off your debts, saving up some money, paying down your mortgage, guess what? You're a target. So you want to have an umbrella policy to cover that. Health insurance. The Bankruptcy Institute says that over 50% of consumer bankruptcies are the result of medical bills. If you do not have health insurance and can get it, you should do it now. It's financial suicide not to have health insurance and disability insurance. It's very expensive. I understand that. Good health insurance for a single man my age can run $400 to $600 a month. Many times, you can then add your wife and kids for a smaller amount. I understand it costs a lot, but you need to have coverage in some form. Question in the back.
What are your thoughts on the insurance or alternative stuff that's advertised, as far as like Christian places? It's not health insurance, but
It's a great segue. Next section, health insurance alternatives. Samaritan Health Insurance. You pay a premium every month, except you don't pay it to a company. Your check gets sent directly to the person in need that month. It's a group of people who collectively insure one another through their collective buying power. It's a lot like insurance. I know several people have been on that, who have gone through that. You know, it seems to work. There are also subscription-based health insurance. So here, now, does anyone know, here in the Valley, there's Trailhead Clinics and Appleton Clinics. Anyone know what those are? Okay, what you can do is you can pay $200 a month, and Joanna and I do this with our family. The $200 a month covers me, her, and all of our kids for physicals, for stitches, for simple casts, for simple x-rays, all kinds of stuff that if you went to the ER would cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, when we first got married and didn't have any money and didn't have any health insurance, we got real creative. When one of us, like, I forget if it was you or me, we closed a finger in the door and we felt like we broke our finger. We literally sent, my wife, I sent her to our chiropractor. Yeah. And she's like, what? I said, he has an x-ray machine. He knows how to read x-rays. What did he charge us? Like $20? It was insane. If you went to the ER, what would they charge you? Yeah, it's $1,000 to knock on the door of the ER. Okay, and he said, yeah, it's a crack in your bone. It's very small. You can't cast it or splint. He said, just wrap a splint on it, and a month later, you'll be fine. Cost us $25. She wasn't happy, but, you know, you got a question? She wanted doctors and nurses.
What do you think about like Medicaid and stuff?
What about it?
Like, is it like okay now, I guess?
Great question. Let's talk about it later. It'll just take us off on a tangent. Okay, the last one. Now here's the idea. The subscription-based health insurance, the reason for it is you pay a small amount of money and it covers the majority of your medical expenses. Then your insurance, you only need to buy health insurance for major catastrophes. The reason health insurance is expensive is because people will use it when their kid has a cold. That's what makes insurance so expensive. So if you say, hey, all we want is the coverage for major accident and illness, okay, and we're going to pay for all of our own stuff, cash out of pocket, you can lower your health insurance costs. All right.
What are your thoughts on the health savings accounts?
There's nothing wrong with a health savings account. It depends on a couple of factors. Number one, how much control do you have over it as far as what you're investing it in? Sometimes what you're going to find is that you can earn a lot more money yourself rather than the savings account. I believe the major benefit for you doing it is I think it's out of pre-tax dollars. So that's the reason that people will usually do it. It has to be used, obviously, for, medical. I don't have a problem with, the medical savings accounts. I know a lot of people that do it. Usually people are going to do it who are self-employed and the health insurance is real expensive. The way health insurance gets cheaper is you work for a Fortune 500 company and they're insuring 20,000 people. So, the health insurance is a lot cheaper rather than my company who has one employee. They're like, so it's real expensive. So that's typically who's going to use a health savings plan. Okay, last one, identity theft insurance. This one is the cheapest and easiest insurance. It's technically not insurance. You don't have to qualify for it. You just need to buy it. And it'll only cost you like $20 a month. It is worth it. You can also talk to Xander, who was in charge of the life insurance. It's the QR code in the notes. They can sell you all of these, and they can sell you the identity theft protection. The Federal Trade Commission got 1.1 million reports of ID theft in 2022. So there's a reason to get it. All right, so here's the deal. And I was trying to move fast. There's not a chance on earth we're going to get through this. Okay, how much latitude will you give me? How many more minutes can I go before you just have a mutiny and leave? 10 minutes? Okay, I'm going to go for I'm going to go for 10 more minutes, and we're just going to start talking about mortgages, because that's the next one on our budget if you're following along. Now, we're still using the notes, okay, and we're down on this page, upper left-hand corner, mortgage payments. All right, so let's just get started, and we're going to go for 10 minutes, 13 at the most. If you are going to buy a home, rule number one, there are several rules. Rule number one, get a 15-year mortgage. 30-year mortgages dominate the industry. Anyone want to guess why? Because the banks get more money. Freddie Mac reports that 90% of home buyers choose a 30-year mortgage when buying a home. Only 6% select a 15-year mortgage when buying a home. People throw away, listen to me now, listen. People throw away hundreds of thousands of dollars by getting a 30-year mortgage instead of a 15. I'm going to give you an example now. I wrote it down in your notes. You have a $225,000 loan at a 4% interest rate. Pause for laughter. That was about the interest rate. That shows you how long ago I wrote these notes. Yeah, it was a couple years ago. With a 30-year mortgage, your payment, principal, and interest would be $1,074. Pause for laughter again. If you went with a 15-year mortgage, your payment would be $1,664. Now that is $590 more a month, and I understand that's not a small amount. But after 10 years on the 30-year mortgage, you would still owe how much? $225,000 loan, you're 10 years into it, you still owe, write this down, $177,264. After 10 years on a 30-year mortgage. But you only would have knocked off $47,736 off of the principal balance, and you would have paid $81,000 in interest payments in the first 10 years. And you still have 20 years to go. $81,000 in interest. If you did a 15-year mortgage After 10 years, you would still owe $90,369. You have paid a total of $65,045 in interest. Now, that's still a lot of interest, but you would have paid much less in interest, and you would have almost twice as much money paid off of the principal amount, and you would only have 5 years left on your mortgage. The total interest at the end of the loan for a 30-year fixed rate would be $161,640, and for a 15-year, it would be $74,520. You would have saved over $87,000 in savings on interest for that loan. Plus, you would own your home 15 years earlier. And remember, that $87,000 extra, you're paying that in interest. You are not saving that or investing that money in your retirement. It all goes to the bank. That sets you back a long, long time. It takes the average millionaire 10.2 years to pay off their house. How quickly could you pay off your house if you got super serious about it? And remember, what was the whole idea? We're eliminating our debt. Well, why do we want to do that, Patrick? We want to do that so that we can have extra money to throw at our mortgage, so we can pay off our home early. Rick, so help me, if you ask me a question about mortgage interest on your taxes, I will throw something at you.
So I had a question for you. So, we thought about this years ago, and I did it for a while before I did the 15-year loan, we have really helped us. But I went to 30-year loan in case, and made that payment, but I added so much every month, a check on the principal. And the reason I did that, I didn't want to go to a 15-year loan and then be obligated to that extra $500 and some odd dollars a month. So I had that flexibility to, if something came up and I needed that extra money.
Okay, so what Rick said, and I'm going to repeat this because this is what Joanna and I did as well. Okay, Rick and I are self-employed. So I don't know if this was what he was thinking, but this is what I was thinking. Months are good and months are bad. So I went with a 30-year mortgage so that if I ever had bad months, I could save extra money going to my mortgage. But that only works if you pay off your 30-year mortgage like it's a 15, which is easy to do. You can get out a calculator and you can figure out what you need to add in order to make it a 15-year mortgage. I'm going to tell you two things. Number one, nobody does that. Nobody. Rick might have done that. We did that. Nobody does that. Do not kid yourself that you're going to do that. Okay? Statistics bear out that people that get into a 30-year mortgage pay it off in 30 years. Okay? Now, there are some people that have the discipline to do that. It is very few, which is why we encourage people to get a 15-year mortgage, because you're going to guarantee, you lock yourself in, you're going to get it paid off. Okay. So that is the reason that we tell people to do it. Number two, not one time in my life did I need to save on my mortgage payment because I needed that extra money. That was the idea, never came up. Betting it never came up for you either. Yeah, it never came up. So that's the reason we tell people don't do it. Okay? Just get yourself the 15-year mortgage and save yourself nearly $100,000 in payments. I have 6 more minutes. Question. Who has a question? Someone have a question?
Same idea by paying an extra mortgage payment every year?
We're going to go over a variety of ways to pay off your mortgage early next week. We're actually going to start with that as far as getting out, paying off your mortgage early. If you want to look ahead in your notes, that's what step 6 is. Pay off our mortgage early. Okay, I'm going to go over one last point, and we are going to be done. And Okay, you ready for this? Rule number 2, if you are going to buy a home, everyone's going to hate this one. No. You need a down payment of 20%. Sorry, I was thinking 20 and I heard Rick say 20 and I was like, he's got to be wrong, it's 25. So, sorry. You want a down payment of 20% and your monthly payment must be less than 25% of your take-home pay. There, I said it. Now, someone's going to say, brother, do you know what housing prices are doing in this valley? Do you know what interest rates are doing? I do, as a matter of fact. I understand that. But there is a principle that you need to understand. You cannot break this rule. Your budget, you can break down as a pie chart. And you are going to allocate this amount for where you live every month. Every percentage point you go over that, you have to take from somewhere else. And when you go beyond this number, this is the magic number that has been studied out that determines whether you get ahead in life or not. Because you steal a percentage point from somewhere else in your pie chart. And most likely you're going to take that percentage point from saving or investing, or worse, giving to God. So I want your house to be a blessing instead of a financial curse that adds stress to your life. When Joanna and I bought our house, our first house, we're in our second house now. When we bought our first house, we bought it in 2008 at the tippy top of the housing bubble. We signed on the paper, and in the background I heard as the bubble popped, and the value of our house just shot down. Even when we bought our house, we bought a house for $130,000. It wasn't brand new. It was a 100-year-old house. But we could afford it, and it set us up to have the money to save, and at the end of every month, we could pay off our debt, and we could save for an emergency fund, and we could start our retirement, and it allowed us to save up a whole bunch of money that we used to build our dream home 10 years later. And if we maxed out this pie chart, we wouldn't have been able to do any of that. If you look at your notes, you'll see a chart that I made in the lower right-hand corner of this page showing you your income, your take-home pay, that's post-tax dollars, by month, and 25% of that number. So if you go up here, you see if you have an annual income of $50,000, your monthly income is $41.66, your take-home pay is $35.04, which means you can afford a house payment of $876.19. You say, Patrick, that's impossible. I don't care. That's what you can afford. Whether you do this or not is up to you. You want to know the other way that you can make your monthly payment on your house go down? You make this number go up. Put more money down on your house. Save up a little longer. Get that monthly payment down.
Is there a recommended rental cost?
Same thing.
Ownership?
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was allowed to be a little bit higher because it's less expensive on the rental.
So the question is, can it be a little higher because there's less expenses on a rental? So technically, you should be paying the same amount for rent as buying because your landlord should include the property taxes and maintenance in your monthly payment. Sometimes they don't, and you get to lowball it and get rent a little cheaper. But the idea is still we're not allowed to go beyond 25% because then it's going to cut into the money we're saving up to get our down payment. Good question. Okay, let's see. The purchase of your home is my second great way to destroy your budget. This is my number 2 major money, no way, Jose. Buying too much house. Good friend of mine several years ago set themselves back a long ways by buying way too much house. I was talking to him. He was buying his first house. He didn't get married yet. He was about to get married. And he told me that they ended up spending 50% of their monthly budget on their home. I told him not to do it and told him not to do it and told him not to do it. And he was so excited about finally getting a house that they went ahead and pulled the trigger anyhow. And the problem is, how is that guy ever going to save up money and get out of debt? How's that guy ever going to save up money for an emergency fund? How is he going to have money to save and to invest for retirement? It's gone. You will never have it. And although I don't, some people, and this is a rare case, and I hope that none of you are in this situation, but some people need to sell that boat anchor. They need to sell their home because it's destroying their budget so badly that they will never get ahead. And that's okay. You got to remember, we have to be willing to make drastic changes now so that we can reach our goal in the future. And my goal is not to be digging ditches when I'm 70 years old. That's my goal. I don't want the last ditch that I dig to be my grave and they just push me in. Okay? I want to retire. I want to stop working. That's not going to happen if I spend all my money. And the greatest way to destroy your budget for years and years and years is buying way too much house. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you this. When you go to buy a house and you talk to a real estate agent, they want to know 2 things. They want to know how much money you make, and they want to know how much money you owe. And they're going to talk to their lender, and they're going to bring them in. And the realtor, you're literally going to tell your realtor, you're going to be like, well, you know, I want to buy a house for this much. They're going to say, okay, yeah, that sounds great. You want to spend $200,000. I get it. That's reasonable. Okay. How much do you make? And you're going to tell them, and they're going to be like, oh, you make that much? You can afford a house payment this big. Now, they just lied to you because they said afford. You can't afford it. They're just willing to loan it to you. You have to remember that you do not base your monthly house payment on what a bank will give you. They are not your friend. They are not there to help you. So, we want to make sure when buying a house, rule number 3, a bank lending you the money does not mean that you can afford it. It is your responsibility to know what you can afford. The bank is not there to help you. Neither is your realtor. They are there to rob you blind. Any questions, and we're done. Okay, you guys were wonderful. Now, we went a little long. I mean, we did. And I'm grateful that you guys gave me a little bit of rope there so I could finish some stuff. We have a few pages that we want to finish up next week on buying a house, and then we'll move on from that, and we're going to talk about some Bible stuff tomorrow. But just remember, we are late because of all of your wonderful questions. So I'm glad you asked them. I'm willing to stay as late as you guys want, but I know there's a limit because we all got to get up and go to work tomorrow. So anyone that wants can hang out and ask me some more questions. We're going to be dismissed with a word of prayer. Abram, would you be so kind as to close us in a word of prayer, and we'll get out of here.